So friends, I hope and I'm sure you were listening closely to Anne reading. And I'm willing to bet that it was a little confusing. And it wasn't because Anne read it wrong. It's just that the writer John wrote in a very interesting way here. So here is something that I have wrote about come and see. We heard those words, come and see. But first, as I described at the beginning of worship, and we said a prayer for enlightenment, today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Around the country, millions of others in worship all over, people as well are recognizing this day and saying prayers and giving thanks to this great leader. His quest was to make emancipation and freedom complete for the African Americans and the black persons by using the call of his ministry. Martin Luther King Jr., though, sought to emancipate all of us. His desire was to liberate us from the belief that some humans are less than human. Reverend King's message included you and me and invited all of us to come and see. Come and see what God has in store for us. Come and see that God calls us to care for one another. In what might be the most confusing and convoluted sentences in the Christian Bible, the writer in John tells us, listen closely, after me comes a man who ranks ahead of me because he was before me. Okay? Perfectly sensible. Though the Apostle Paul has a few doozies in his writing, the writer of the book of John gave us something to ponder about. Now, in the spirit of African American churches, in the spirit of Pentecostal churches, I'd like you to relax your guard just a tiny bit. I've done this with you before. So when I raise my arms like this, I'd like you to simply just say, amen. Don't have to shout it out in proclamation. Just amen. Let's give it a try. Here we go. Very good. Now, in saying, after me comes a man who ranks ahead of me because he was before me, the writer of John gave us something to ponder about. So let's ponder about that for just a moment. Yes, that's right, friend. We're told that John the Baptist declares that though he has been heard first, someone to follow will be more important than him. Something few of us care to say about anyone else. Following in our footsteps, I imagine we like to have the spotlight, right? Amen. In elevating Jesus to someone with greater rank, John the Baptist not only makes Jesus the greater, but he acknowledges that he himself is not the reason for our worship. And once Jesus has seen that John knows his mission, John and the disciples then hear these special words, come and see. Now, though it may not be a great many preachers who falter, there are some Christian preachers and ministers who find themselves with a sizable following of parishioners. It's when the preachers begin to believe that their parish got its numbers because of they themselves that things can go a little wrong. John the Baptist was not this kind of preacher. He heard the words of Jesus once they were spoke after. They spoke to him and those who heard him. Those words that Jesus said to those disciples, come and see. Those words, come and see, not me, John the Baptist, but come and see the one who ranks ahead of me. So in many ways, John the Baptist had already known those words. He was asking people, come and see, not me. Come and see Jesus, who will then say as well, come and see. Now, today is the day when we remember the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. He was a preacher, of course, of great magnitude, a prophet who will be remembered, dare I say, 1,000 years, not for what he did himself, but what he did for others. He was a shy preacher who welcomed a civil rights rally into his very small church when no one else around him would allow the gathering. No one. It was from this small and chance beginning that a fundamental change was brought to each and every one of us. And yet, this kind of change was not new, nor was it the last in a line of changes that would be brought to us all. Like John the Baptist, Reverend King was not willing to point to himself and tell people that he was the reason for their passion. With every speech, with every sermon, he said, "Come and see." Now, in his sermon that occurred April 3rd, 1968, the one he gave just prior to his assassination in Memphis, Martin Luther King Jr. pointed away from himself. He said it again. He pointed away from himself. It was a solemn and prophetic few words at the end of his sermon where he separated himself from the message. Again, he separated himself from the message. Here's what he said. "And then I got into Memphis, and some began to say the threats, or talk about the threats that were out, or what would happen to me from some of our sick white brothers. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop, and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm so happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord." And shortly after these very words were spoken, he was shot and killed with an assassin's bullet. And in the manner of a true prophet, in the manner of someone who pointed away from the self and to God's goodness, his mission did not fail. But to this day, continues on. May I hear an amen. Amen. His mission was to invite others, and he did so with "come and see." So I'd like to see us at First Congregational, which I think we are already, but I would love to see the mission go on and on. I'd like to see us as prophets who were always pointing away from ourselves and towards God. I don't know, where's God? Where do we point? Whatever it is, it's not this, right? It's not me. It's not this. But God is the attraction because God is so great. One of our challenges here, especially anybody, any church, is that we can spend a great deal of time and energy pointing to ourselves. Not that we desire to. I mean, really, we don't really desire to do that. But we spend a great deal of energy tending to our own internal needs, especially paying bills and fixing things, which is all very appropriate. It's important. And we also, though, have a wonderful way of pointing away from ourselves and all the things we do. Just before worship, of course, we had the backpack people coming in. Again, pointing away from ourselves. Passion and disagreement can flare. Not that passion and disagreement are wrong. But Jesus is turning to us and reminding us, come and see. And you know what? Jesus wasn't saying, come and see me. Once again, Jesus, like John, was pointing to something else, and it wasn't himself. We know this to be true because, it's interesting. We have 4 books of the Bible. I've mentioned this before. In the first 3 that are in the Bible, Jesus keeps on going like this. It's interesting. All of a sudden in John, he starts going like this. So we know for the most part, Jesus was really interested in God, pointing and saying, come see, I got a secret. I'm not going to keep it a secret very long. In today's passage, we read that 2 disciples of John, they were standing with him when Jesus walked by. The disciples asked Jesus a question. They gauged him because they were drawn to him and away from their own concerns. And Jesus' simple answer to them was, come and see. From there on in this book, this collection of stories, the story of Jesus and his disciples being called away from their own concerns to do God's work, good work, was the thing. So it should be ours as well. Pointing to God, lifting up God, celebrating God. Come and see, we should be saying. Those words attributed to Jesus should be the words we suggest to our family members, and to our neighbors, to a stranger at the store, and to good friends. Come and see. Come and see what I have found. Come and see the one who ranks ahead of me, even though I might want to be before. Come and see the place that I found safety and acceptance. Come and see the place where I'm accepted. Come and see the glory of the Lord. Just like MLK said in that speech, seeing the glory of the Lord. Come and see. I hope that you find those words on your lips. Come and see. I hope our mission here is to invite others and together to join the disciples of the centuries. From John the Baptist to Martin Luther King Jr. to the members of the First Congregational Church, come and see becomes our mission. So may you invite others, and may you invite your own spirit to come and see. Amen. If you